Hi, it's Josh Rubin with the Rubin team. Let's go take a look. Hi guys, it's Josh Rubin here with our latest installment of the Rubin Special live from New York City on Wednesday, March 13th at 12 p.m. Eastern, joined by none other than my friend Gina Pelaia from Homer, Alaska. Gina, how's spring treating you there in Alaska?
Well, it showed up, but it went away. We had winter again this morning, and I drove in a whiteout condition.
Wow, that's
Yes,
what we call white knuckle driving. How far do you have to commute?
about 20 minutes.
All right, so it's not terrible, but
No,
certainly long enough to go off the road if you're not careful, right?
this is true.
So, Gina, tell us a little bit about how long you've been in the business and how the market's been treating you.
The market's been great. I started in real estate in Texas in 1996. I actually started out selling mobile homes down there and just had a passion for real estate, got my real estate license, and I moved to Homer 20 years ago and have been at it ever since. Love the business, love the market. It's a wonderful place to be.
What brought you to Homer, Alaska 20 years ago?
Well, I had a family that moved here initially, and I had a little surprise, a pregnancy, and I decided to sell my house in Texas and take some time off and come up to Homer and have my baby. And so I did that. And of course, I didn't take much time off. About 3 months later, got my real estate license, and I went to work.
Wow. So you got into real estate when you got to Homer or around the time that you had your baby?
Yes, well, I'd done real estate in Texas prior to coming here, but when I moved here in actually February 20 years ago, and my son is going to be 21 in June, I just got my license right away and went to work.
Wow. So there was a lot going on, a lot of change between the move and your son coming and then
Yes.
this new career in Homer. So what were some challenges that you experienced when you first started out?
Well, I'm originally from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, so winter was a new thing for me. But I dove right in and I enjoy a lot of the winter activities. I ski, my son snowboards. We really enjoy all that Alaska has to offer. It was challenging because obviously I didn't know anybody. I didn't know the areas, things like that. But I dove right in, and I'm happy to call this place home for the last 20 years.
Very cool. So what would you say for somebody who's starting out in Homer, Alaska, if they just wanted to kind of start out and hit the ground running, based on your experience and the challenges that you encountered, what would be your advice?
I would say just dive right in, learn the areas, drive around, check out the properties, meet the people, just dive right into the community. It's a healthy, very awesome, vibrant community, and it's easy to dive right in and get started.
Cool. That sounds good. So in the last couple of years, you really hit your stride. You've been included in the Real Trends list, and you did almost $21 million in volume. What's your average home price, I should say?
I would say the median home price in Homer is around 350 to 400,000. I don't just sell in Homer; I sell statewide. I currently have listings in Anchorage, Kodiak, Cooper Landing, Whittier, and of course Homer and the surrounding areas.
And how far is it from one to the other for you?
It's 220 miles to Anchorage, so it's
Wow.
quite a trek, but it's one of the
Yeah.
most gorgeous drives that you'll ever encounter. It's just amazing, beautiful.
Yeah. And so do you have a team of people helping you in those other markets? Because 220 miles, that must be better part of 6 hours or something to drive.
Yeah, it's about a 4 to 5 hour drive, depending on how you drive it and the time of the year. But
Mhm.
we have an office in Anchorage, we have an office in Wasilla, and I have a great team of people that I work with that facilitate things for me all the time.
Cool. That sounds good. And so, in the last couple of years, what enabled you to be as successful as you are? I mean, covering all that territory is one thing. You have the team, of course, but I would imagine that with an average home price of $350,000 to $400,000, selling $21 million in volume is quite a bit.
Yes. Well, I would say I would attribute a lot of it to Berkshire Hathaway. I was initially with kind of a mom and pop business here in Homer for 20 years, and we were doing real estate kind of like the 80s, and that's what, when I was approached by Berkshire Hathaway, that's what they said. So I feel like I've just been able to elevate my business for my clients, my customers. We have a global platform. We like to say our roots are local, but our reach is global. So I would just, I would definitely attribute a lot of it, my success, to this amazing company that I'm with.
Yeah. Well, I know Gino Blafari is a real force, and he's
Yes.
taken what was, sort of old school brokerage, and with Warren's support and Berkshire Hathaway, they've turned Home Services of America into a pretty dynamic piece of the brokerage landscape just in the last 5 years. So Gino, he was at Telus, and I think Douglas Elliman actually acquired Telus in California, and then he found this opportunity with Berkshire, and he's really turned it into one of the most dynamic of the bigger brokerages. So no surprise that they've helped you really sort of find your stride there. So tell us a little bit about your experience growing up in Fort Lauderdale. What was that like?
Yeah, so my grandfather was actually a dentist, and he got his commercial real estate broker's license, and he was kind of on the forefront. Back in the early 70s, he bought a commercial building and had his dental office down there and an apartment above that we actually lived in when my dad was in law school. So that was, looking back now, I'm like, wow, he was really a forward thinker. That was kind of unheard of back in that day. But I spent a lot of time on the beach. My grandmother had over 200 relatives from Florida. It was an awesome place to grow up.
Yeah. And so were there other people in your family also in real estate?
Yes, my mom did real estate as I was growing up as well. And now
Wow.
my son is actually taking the real estate course. So I'm excited to see him become a fourth generation realtor.
Oh, cool. That's fun. Yeah, my daughter is actually thinking about getting her license this summer between freshman and sophomore year in college. So we'll
Yeah,
see what she does with it.
awesome. Yeah, my son's in his second year in college, and he tells me he wants to get his real estate license, but he wants to be an entrepreneur. So I'm excited to see what he does as well.
Well, it is a very entrepreneurial business, right? And
Yes, yes, it is.
I think that the more that we think outside of the box while still staying structured and focusing on our growth, is the more successful that we can be in this business, because it enables us the freedom and liberty to kind of be creative while still having strong business focus. And I think that the more successful of those that I've met over the years are sort of creative and entrepreneurial. I mean, I'm reminded of Mark Pattison down in San Diego, and he's just a real dynamo. He gets into all sorts of things, from development to coffee houses he's getting involved in. He has an ancillary title business and insurance. So it really is a great fit for those of us with a stronger entrepreneurial spirit.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so tell us a little bit about living in Homer. What's that like?
We like to call it the cosmic Hamlet by the Sea. It is incredibly beautiful. But one thing I'm reminded of is my son. He spends a lot of time in Texas in the summers with his dad. And he says people are always asking him, like, what is it about Alaska? And he looked at me one day and he said, Mom, it's the people. I have to agree with that. Like, the beauty of our area just draws the most unique and dynamic people, really from all over the world. And so it's just an amazing place to be surrounded with the kind of people that I get to encounter on a daily basis.
Yeah. So it's really the residents of Homer that make it as dynamic as it is, huh?
It absolutely is. I mean, we really have people from all over the world that make this place their home, and a lot of second home, market as well. People just from all over the place wanting to establish roots here in Homer.
Wow. And so HGTV, I know, came up there, and they did not exactly $1 million listing, but they came up with a slightly different format called Living Alaska. What was that like?
That was amazing. I filmed 5 or 6 episodes with them, and I was actually the only realtor that they chose from Homer, and it was an incredible experience. It was basically real. I mean, the people that, when I was showing the houses were really for sale and on the market. The homes that I sold them are really the homes that they bought. And we had a great experience. It would take about a week to film each episode. Sometimes we did them across the bay, and we were on the water, and we just did every type of Alaska activity that you would do if you were living in Alaska. And it was a great experience.
Wow. And how many people participated in that as far as agents in the area are concerned?
Well, I was the only one from Homer that was on all the Homer episodes. And then they went statewide. They filmed in Fairbanks, Kodiak, Anchorage, and things like that. But all the Homer episodes were all featured me.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
So you were literally the star of the show.
Yes, it was really fun. I'd say my clients were the stars.
Yeah, yeah, I bet. And so, what do you do for fun outside of the real estate world?
Well, I love camping. I bought a camper van, which has been great because I can sell real estate in my van with my hotspot and go anywhere in the state and boondocks. I have a generator, so I can go off the road and still work in my van. So that's one thing I'm really passionate about in the summer. I enjoy boating, fishing, kayaking, hiking, skiing, all the things.
Cool. So it's really an outdoors person paradise.
Absolutely. Yes.
And did you buy the camper van new, or did you do any customizations to it?
Yes, I bought it's called a Pleasure Way, and I really lucked out. Like they're really sought after vans, and I just happened to find one on Facebook Marketplace, and it was 1 mile away from my home, and
Oh,
it was great. So it was new to me, but not very old, and I did customize it, and it has been just one of the best purchases I could say I've made in my life. Is I've had so much fun in that, and I've sold a lot of real estate in it as well.
I bet. My friend Kyle Whistle down in San Diego recently got one of those Tesla trucks. Now,
Oh, fun!
my opinion aside on the Tesla truck, he wrapped it in and sort of branding for his brokerage, and he's actually gotten a lot of attention from it. And people have contacted him because they're seeing the truck around town and asking questions about it. And hey, I want to sell my house, but only if I get a ride in the truck will I list it with you. So it's become sort of like a branding opportunity. So you might want to consider doing that with your
I've
van.
considered that, but I kind of think I'd rather be a little less high profile when I'm camping.
Yeah, yeah, it's always good to keep a low profile so people don't, you don't attract too much attention, right? There's a
Absolutely.
fine line. It's probably a pretty good idea. What was sort of one of your most memorable deals from the last few years?
Oh, well, I've had so many. I'd have to think about that. I'd say a recent one that I'm pretty proud of. There's a place, a condo development here at Land's End, and that's where the land ends and the sea begins.
Hmm.
And I had a upper end condo listed there, probably for about 126 days, I think. And towards the end of the year, I had got a call from a buyer, and she asked me, "Well, why is this condo still on the market?" And I said, "Well, actually, I brought the sellers 4 offers." And she said, "Well, why didn't they take one?" I said, "Well, they just weren't acceptable to the seller." And
Hmm.
she said, "Well, what if I just give them full price and come up in 2 weeks and buy it?" And I'm like, "Well, come on." So that's what happened. And I got a full price offer. It was a record sale and closed it on December 29th within, 2 weeks of the initial contact.
Wow, that's
Yes,
incredible that you can close a deal that quickly.
I know.
And if that's not a testament to your creativity and hard work, I don't know what is.
Well, thank you.
What was the property like?
It was amazing. It's a condo development on what we call the Homer Spit. And this usually there's a hotel out there that rents the condos. And so most of them are in that rental pool. This one was an owner's condo that he had never had in the rental pool. And so it had more change orders than any of them. Really the most upper end condo out there. It was 1.775
Wow.
and just absolutely gorgeous, just gorgeous on the beach. Open the door, see the sea otters, whales swimming right out in front of you. It's just an amazing property.
Wow. So right up there, front and center with all the wildlife, huh?
Absolutely. Just you see boats, ferries right across the ways, the glaciers and the mountains. It's absolutely beautiful.
Very cool. And
Mhm.
how did you wind up with that opportunity?
The seller just called me and listed it with me, and I sold some other properties for the same seller. And it was a great opportunity. I'm still getting calls about it. They come up very few and far between out there. And as I mentioned, they usually aren't in this price range. So I'm still getting calls today for people wanting
No
another
kidding.
one, but there just isn't one available.
Wow. So in a market where the average home price is 350 to $400,000, you sold this home, which was a condo, for about $1.8 million in 2 weeks.
That's right.
Wow. Where did the
Mhm.
buyer come from?
California.
Huh. And
Mhm.
was that somebody that you had in your database, or did they come from the brokerage community?
They just called me actually, and they had been in Homer this summer previously, and so
Hmm.
they were a little bit familiar with the area, and they saw my listing, and they just called me and made a plan to come up here. They came up December 15th, and we closed December 29th.
Incredible. Wow.
Yes,
So you really put the whole thing together.
yes,
Huh. Very cool.
thank you.
And so, you're ranked number 7 for the number of sides and volume in Alaska, right?
Yes.
Huh. And so, tell us about your support staff. What's your business model like? I know you have this team, but as far as your day to day in the office, who do you rely on most?
So I have some fabulous people around me. One is my office manager, Josh Nieblis, who's an incredible backbone to my business on a daily basis. He does transaction coordinating and things like that for me. And I'm very blessed to have him. I'm also blessed to have a realtor that I actually started out in this business with. Her name is Jolene Brooks. She was a front desk person at the mom and pop operation that we were at previously. And she was 18 years old when we started over 20 years ago. And many years ago we made a pact that we wanted to do real estate together, and that if I went anywhere I promised to bring her with me. And so when this opportunity arose, she was the first person I thought of. We clung together and we started this company together, and now we have about 10 agents, and we're number 1 in Homer for our 3rd year in a row, and it's only our 3rd year in business.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
And so you and Jolene and the other gentleman's name is. Did I hear you say?
Josh.
I just want to make because that's my name. So oftentimes I'll think I hear my name, but I'm
Yeah.
wrong. And so the three of you are like sort of you really stick together and you're able to have all this tremendous success, which is great.
It's really great. And I'm also blessed to have a fabulous handyman in my life named Michael Cardwell, who just recently got his real estate license as well. And he's been a real asset, around showings and things like that. There might be some kind of issue. I have a licensed bonded handyman that I can bring with me who now has his real estate license. And I think he's going to do great as well.
Wow, that's very cool. I was just speaking to my friend Christy Reese in Crested Butte, and she was telling me about an attorney who she knows very well within that community. And the gentleman has a lot of great relationships, longstanding with his clients who trust him. And he is getting close to retirement in his law practice. And he, too, is thinking about getting his real estate license and sort of segueing those relationships into real estate brokerage. So, as long as you have strong relationships and a foundation of people who trust you and a knowledge within the community, then, I think that, real estate, like your friend who's the handyman and like, Christie's lawyer, it could really be, a great second career and sometimes third for the right people. I think that Gina, people like you and I who either grew up in the business or were introduced to it from a very young age, obviously we've gone to the school of hard knocks, but it's really just all about relationships, isn't it?
It absolutely is. I couldn't have said it better myself. You're so correct.
Yeah. And so tell us a little bit about your experience on the board of realtors there.
Yeah, so I started on the board of realtors many years ago, probably when I first got my license. One of the things I'm the most passionate about is a scholarship committee, which I've chaired for many years. And that is I wish we had more money to give these deserving kids that are graduating high school. That has been such a rewarding thing. I've served as president for our board 4 times, I believe. We're a small, close-knit board. We try to do good things for the community. We do fundraisers, things like that. And it's just been a good, healthy organization to be involved with.
Yeah. Well, it certainly puts you out there in the forefront and, sets the way for, the rest of the community. And it's good that they have such a trailblazer and somebody who has really been at the forefront for the last 20 years in the majority of their career.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I know you're out there in a more rural setting. What are some of the surprises that you've run into in the course of your showings and day to day on various properties?
Oh, you name it. Well, moose is a thing. You can be on a property and open a door and a moose is standing right there. One time I was at a friend's of mine's house that I was actually showing, and they were feeding birds, probably not at the right time of the year to be feeding birds. And I looked out the window and there were 4 bears hanging in the tree. There was a mom bear and 3 little cubs. And
Wow.
we had to wait before we could get outside the house to make sure we didn't disturb them. So anything's possible. Eagles, boot, moose, bear. One time I saw lynx. That was pretty cool. So
Wow.
lots of wildlife and adventure.
Yeah. And so where was the moose when you ran into them?
Oh, you see moose all the time. They'll come up to the window in the house that you're at. Their nose will be just poking in the window. So, or
Wow.
sometimes you'll walk out the house and you'll look around the corner and there's a big moose standing there, and you just kind of want to give them their space and let them pass by before you go outside.
Yeah. Yeah. One time I was on a hike in the Redwood Forest in Northern California,
Uh,
and just hiking down this trail. And we came around a bend. Kathy and I were with our 3 kids. All of a sudden, there was a big moose right on the side of the trail, no more than 5 feet from us.
uh,
So, of course, the kids were fascinated and they wanted to stand there in front of the moose and sort of interact with it. And I said, no, 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 just stay
keep going.
focused and keep moving. Just keep
That's
moving.
right. Good advice.
If you ignore them, they'll ignore you. But if you don't, then chances are they might start to feel threatened and not
That's true.
understand that you're friendly. But you're friendly. They don't. They interpret it as a threat, and they will attack you.
Yes, they will.
And so those bears that you saw out front in the tree, how long did you have to wait for them to make themselves scarce?
About an hour, actually. They were playing out there for quite a while. So we just enjoyed the show.
Yeah, I'll bet. And
Mhm.
how big were they?
They were cubs. 3 of them were cubs, and it was a mama bear, and they were black bears, fortunately.
Yeah. So the black
Mhm.
bears, they're a little bit smaller, are they?
They're a little bit smaller, yes.
Hmm.
You
Wow.
really don't want to run into a brown bear.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I'm curious. I mean, where do you see the market going up there in Homer and the surrounding area over the course of the year? We have the election coming up. Obviously, I was just down in Orlando at one of the Tom Ferry events, and one of the key takeaways was trying to front load our year. But what are you seeing?
I think it's going to be a great year. We're already off to a great start. I think with COVID, a lot of people realize they can work and live from anywhere.
Hmm.
So that's been huge in our market. We have a lot of second home buyers, as I mentioned, but people that are buying properties here that are realizing they can work anywhere. They just need a good internet system, which we also have Starlink now, and so that's opened up a lot of doors. And I think we're off to a great start, and it's going to be a great year.
That's great. Now, did you see a significant pickup like a lot of the other areas in the country in the wake of the pandemic?
Yes, yes, we sure did. Like that was a time we would see like multiple offers, maybe 3 or 4 at a time. During the pandemic, there was one instance I had 10 multiple offers, which was really unusual for our area. So we definitely saw a big uptick during that time.
Wow. And prior to that, was it business as usual, or was it a little bit more of a sluggish market in 2000, say 18, 19, early 20?
I would say prior to that I wouldn't call it more sluggish, but not as huge. I mean, I do think that with the pandemic, we were more put on the map being a rural area where people wanted to get out of big cities and get into rural areas. And as I mentioned, the internet was huge for people buying houses here and being able to work and live from anywhere.
Yeah. Now, was the internet delayed in its arrival in Homer?
No, not really. I just think that before the pandemic, people were having to clock in 9 to 5 at jobs. And then with the pandemic, lots of people could work from home and work from the internet and things like that. So I think that did help expand our market in a great sense.
Yeah. I mean, the internet was a total game changer, and a lot of talk is surrounding, AI and what it's going to do to the world, and how it's kind of it's almost like the dawn of the internet in a way, and how it's going to change a lot of people's lives.
Hmm.
And a lot of attention is being paid to how we're going to guard against it from changing our lives in ways that we don't expect and might not be terribly positive, but I guess time will tell, right?
It'll be interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. So, over the next couple of years, where are you hoping to take your business?
Upwards and onwards.
Yeah,
Expanding in all ways and all ways, I'd say.
yeah, absolutely. With your son coming into the business here, it could be an interesting dynamic and a good way to sort of, pass the baton.
I'm very excited for that opportunity.
Yeah, should be a
Mhm.
good one.
Yes.
Um, so when you were little, growing up in the business, with your grandfather was a dentist, and then he got his commercial license, and your mom was in the business. With you being third generation, did you ever have visions of, possibly doing something else with your life and career?
I think I did. My father was an attorney, and that always fascinated me, and I always thought that might be a good career. But I just kind of fell into real estate. I started doing it in '96, as I mentioned, with a friend of mine, and realized that this was something I really enjoyed doing. My brother's, his wife, they were married for 25 years. We lost her to breast cancer a few years ago, but she's the one that encouraged me many years ago, Laura. She literally looked at me one day and said, Gina, why aren't you getting your real estate license? Like I think you were born to sell real estate. And I'm glad that I took her advice because I think she was not wrong. And I'm just
Yeah.
passionate about this and happy that I dove in.
And what were you doing before real estate?
I was a stay-at-home mom, really.
Mhm.
Just I'd gone to college and I was married and I had twins and just taking care of babies.
Yeah. So do you have three kids then?
Yep, I like to say a pair and a spare. I have boy-girl twins who are 30 and my youngest is 20.
Cool. And he's going to be 21 in June, right?
We will. We're looking forward to that.
What's his birthday in June?
June 19th.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah.
Curious. I'm June 1st. So
Oh, well, happy
yeah,
pre-birthday.
another June baby here. So,
Yes.
and
Yeah,
so
but
what are the twins doing?
the twins, they each provided me with a grandchild, which is really awesome. My son twin, he has a daughter who's just turned 4, and my daughter twin has a son who just turned 4. So it's almost like I have twins all over again with my grandchildren. They're 3 months apart.
Wow, that's funny.
Yes.
That was my next question too.
Yes. And the grandparents that's the best job in the world. Like I love it.
Yeah.
It is so fun.
Now, are the twins down in Texas?
No, they're actually here. I'm very blessed that they're here in Homer and close by, and I get to see my grandbabies all the time. And so life is good.
What are some of the major industries up there in Homer?
Our hospital is a big industry here. Our mental health organization is also a big industry here. Other than that, we have a tourism industry, fishing. We're the halibut fishing capital of the world, so fishing, commercial fishing, and sports fishing is very big here.
What are some of your more memorable clients? I know you worked with the Hillstrand brothers from The Deadliest Catch.
Yes, that was fun. I've worked with them. I've worked with some of the Kilchers from the Alaska The Last Frontier show. Just the people here are so interesting. I mean, I've met so many interesting people. I've worked with a Hollywood director. I've worked with just really neat people from all over the world, I'd say.
The Hollywood director. Tell us about that.
Well, we're still working together, so I'm going to be a little secretive about that, but it's a
Yeah.
pretty awesome opportunity that I look forward to sharing a story about in the future.
Yeah. Well, confidentiality is key, and we're certainly sensitive to that.
Yes.
And so, what would you say is the biggest source of business for you?
Repeat business for sure, referrals. I've sold some of the same homes 3 and 4 times. So I definitely get a lot of repeat business and I definitely get a lot of referrals.
Yeah. Well, with your knowledge base and experience within the community, not to mention your position on the board of realtors, it's no surprise that you would get quite a bit of business from repeat and referral clients.
Yes.
So,
I'm very appreciative.
what's your biggest deal? I know you did that condo for $1.8 million, was it?
Yeah.
But what is the biggest deal of your career?
I'd say that's up there as one of them. I sold a lodge last year in Cooper Landing for 1.6. That was pretty awesome property. Right now, I have some really cool listings. One is the iconic Sunrise Inn in Cooper Landing, which is listed for 2.3. It's a hotel with a bar, restaurants, got a gas station, cabins, and RV park. And then adjacent to that, I just listed It's called the Alaska Horseman's Ranch, and that is an amazing property, 3.87 acres, bunch of cabins, and it's a horse recreational business, like a tour business that they do with Kenai Princess Lodge, which is the cruise line that has a lodge up in Cooper Landing. And these properties are adjacent together. So it's a pretty fantastic opportunity for one person to get just under 10 acres of prime commercial real estate in Cooper Landing, which is just an amazing place with the world-class salmon fishing there.
Wow, very cool.
Mm-hmm.
And so the hotel that you mentioned, I got to imagine with all the different drivers of revenue on that property between the hotel, the cabins, the gas station, it's got to have a pretty good ROI, no?
It absolutely does. It's just an iconic location. It's open year round. It was built in 1952, and if you're driving to Anchorage, you have to go by this place. And I'm really excited about it.
Wow. And how did you wind up with that listing?
I've sold some other properties in Cooper Landing, and the owner just called me up and told me she was interviewing real estate agents and asked me if I'd come up and meet her. And so I did, and she listed on the spot with me.
Wow. It's always great when you have what my dad and I affectionately refer to as a one-call close, right?
Exactly. All we need is one.
Yeah. I'd say the majority of the people that we work with here are fairly cerebral, and they like to kind of digest things and think about them. So it's always a little bit more challenging to just, close them on the spot. They usually like to kind of have a conversation and maybe have a second meeting and then have, a couple more conversations and then ask questions and think about things. And then, over, a couple weeks, if they're ready at that time, which is another story in and of itself, do you then, ultimately get the listing? A lot of the people that I've met over the years have been from my mailings. And so because I'm constantly in front of them by way of the mailings, I typically will meet them at the top of the funnel, which is when they're, just starting to get curious about the idea of selling. And so they might call me to get, the value of their property. But in many cases, they're not ready to go right then and there. So it's really, it's almost like they turn into a past client in a way in terms of my follow-up over the course of weeks, months, and in many cases years before they're actually ready to do something. And it varies, right? Their need to do something varies. In some cases, it's because their kids are going to school uptown, and so the commute back and forth between classes and extracurricular activities becomes a little bit of a burden to them. In some cases, obviously, they're moving out of town or downsizing or upsizing. Some of my favorite clients are actually those who are of retirement age and moving to be closer to family or going into assisted living. And I really appreciate working with those properties because they tend to have more character, and in some cases they have interesting stories to them. So, what would you say your sort of avatar client is? Your perfect profile of a seller or buyer?
Not really like all people. One thing that I've noticed is, I look around my friend group. Every single one of them, I started with selling them a home or a property. They become fast friends typically, and I have a variety. I love them all. I love the older people. I love the younger people. It's exciting to be involved with somebody's first time home purchase, and it's also, an honor to be chosen with somebody's, when they're going through their life changes, divorces, deaths, things like that. And then they chose you to kind of help them close that chapter and start a new chapter. That's always an honor and a grateful experience, I would say.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. We're typically side by side with these people when they are going through these life changes, whether it be, welcoming children, where they're expanding their household to the kids leaving the nest, or in some cases losing a spouse or going through a divorce. But, what's important is that we build these longstanding, trusting relationships, and we really put the client first. And I think that's what, you and I and a lot of the people who are more successful in our industry really focus on, more so than the transaction. And the income side of things is really just on helping people.
Mm-hmm.
And one listing that we're getting this week is interesting. I met this woman when she was working for a company. She had just graduated school. She was in her first job, and I could tell that she was exceptionally bright and had a lot of potential. And she was fortunate enough to have parents who were helping her buy her first home. And I figured it would probably be a typical starter home. Lived there 3 to 5 years. We stayed in touch, and in the blink of an eye, 15 years have passed. She started her own activewear company, and she met her perfect match, and is in the process of buying a new home in New Jersey. And so it's time for her to sell the apartment that I sold her 15 years ago. So you never know when people are going to need you, but it's important that you stay close and remain patient and helpful. And here we're going to be able to put her home on the market for $2 million. And I'm pretty confident that we'll be able to get it done. So, yeah.
We're firm believers in Alan Dalton's way of the forever agent. We want to be there for their first transaction, and I have that tagline on my email, and I can't tell you how many clients write me back and say, you know what, you are our forever agent. We love that. We're not just here for today, want to be there forever.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's always been my philosophy, and fortunately, I've had some success with that as well. And some of our clients have done as many as 6 and 7 transactions with us, just themselves, let alone the people that they've put in touch with us over the years, and we've helped a lot of people, and it's turned into sort of a multi-generational opportunity where sometimes the kids will buy something from us, and then the parents want to move to be closer to them, and so they'll buy a small place here in the city, and vice versa. The parents will buy their pied-à-terre, and then they'll introduce us to the kids, and sometimes they'll have 2 or 3 kids in the city, and they're constantly moving around. So it's nice that way, for sure.
It is. I'm definitely a realtor for many different families, and it's such an honor when the whole family's working with you.
Yeah. So one of the things that a lot of the people that we talk to tend to focus on is finding ways to give back.
Yes.
And I know that you are a chairperson of scholarship committee. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so as every year we give out 3 $1,000 scholarships to local graduates in the Homer area, and we put our application out. And one thing that we like to do is, there's a lot of kids that are getting all the scholarships. We kind of like to focus on the underdog, maybe the person that's overlooked a little bit. It's not going to win everything. Maybe they want to go to a trade school. Maybe they want to become a realtor. We like to, support the kids like that. And it's such an honor. I mean, we get so many applications. And like I had mentioned earlier, I wish I had more money to give these students because they're so deserving. And it's just a real feel-good thing that our community does.
Yeah. Well, that's remarkable. Sometimes I see kids who start off in these underserved communities, and they find a way to make it right. My father's wife, Bonnie, is really an all-star educator. She was teaching in the middle schools in inner city Philadelphia, in North Philadelphia, which is known to be a very challenging community in a number of ways. But she's seen a couple students rise above the rest. And one of them started off in, underprivileged community, and he stuck to it and knew that he had the ability to get himself out of it. And now he's one of the lead executives at Vanguard.
Awesome.
And he has his private pilot's license. So, a lot of these kids in these underserved communities have incredible potential, but it's really a combination of having the right support and believing in themselves in order to really achieve their true potential. And I think that if there were resources provided to a lot of these people, you'd really see tremendous progress. And I think that a lot of these people would surprise certainly their community and even themselves and what they could achieve. So I think that's a great that's a great thing that you're doing.
Thank you. It's very rewarding. In fact, one of our realtors, it's a current realtor here, she won this scholarship many, many years ago. And
Wow.
that's amazing when they come back to you years later and they're like, oh, you know, this is what I did with that scholarship. Makes you feel really good. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Not only did they remember you, but they're essentially paying it forward and coming full circle to help you and the company. So
Yeah,
that's great.
Absolutely.
Wow. Well, Gina, I really appreciate you spending time with us today on the Rubin Special. This has been a real treat getting to know you.
Thank you.
Look forward to repaying the favor in some way one day.
Thank you,
You're clearly a star at what you do, not just in Homer, but really across the country. You're a shining example of what it means to be a realtor and all that it takes to not only be successful, but really be passionate and love what you do. So thank you.
Thank you, Josh. It's been my pleasure. I appreciate the opportunity.
Of course. We'll see you soon.
All right. Sounds good.
Hi, it's Josh Rubin with the Rubin team. Let's go take a look.